or should I? You're live. Great. Welcome everyone to our March 17th, you're fine, workshop for college questions answered. We are excited to be here both live at the Children's Museum and also virtually via Zoom. So thank you to those who are joining us in both places. My name is Kelsey Hambleton. I'm the manager of the Mid-North Promise program, and we are very excited today to have representatives from Butler, from Marion, and from Ivy Tech. And so I will turn it over to them to introduce themselves, if you wouldn't mind, and then we would love to jump into questions. This is going to be an informal Q&A, so no presentations, just a lot of great back and forth about questions in terms of post-secondary opportunities. Please, if you're in Zoom, please feel free to put your questions in the chat. We're monitoring the chat, and then we can also have questions here in person. So you all have your microphones. If we want to start one side to the other, introducing ourselves, that would be great. And then we'll get going.
Good evening, everyone, and happy Thursday. My name is Makeda Lenz. I am the Assistant Director at Butler University. I help lead our DEI initiatives, and I manage all of our scholarship programs. Happy to be here.
Hello, everyone. My name is Ashley Hardy, and I am the Director of Undergraduate Admission at Marion University. So I work with an admissions team, and we guide students through the admissions and enrollment process.
Hello, my name is Octavius Randolph, and I'm an assistant in the student life and community at Ivy Tech Community College, and I'm also a student.
All right, hello. Yep, will do. Hello, everyone. I'm Alonzo Ross. I'm currently the Director of Dual Enrollment and Transition at Ivy Tech Indianapolis. Glad to be here.
Hello, everyone. First and foremost, it's a pleasure to be here. Thank you for the invitation. My name is Don Trujillo. I am from Ivy Tech Community College, and I am the administrative assistant in the Student Life and Development offices.
Well, Angelina, it might be too soon to have questions in the chat. I know Angelina's monitoring the chat. And Kara, you're welcome to raise your hand or jump in if you have any questions. But I would like to ask, because I know this is a question that has come up in my work with students. A lot of them are curious, how many colleges should they apply to, do we think? Is there like a sweet spot? Is there a recommended minimum? I think sometimes it can feel overwhelming, like you just don't know when to stop applying. So would love your feedback on that question.
I think as a student, I can say apply to as many as possible, especially if it's a free application and there's no essay, because that just that really just enhances your chance.
As well, I would agree with that. Apply to as many as possible, especially with the free applications. It gives you a view of where you could, all the possibilities, your visions of where you want to be, and it also gives you the opportunity to see which ones are out there and which ones are the most prospective of the ones that you apply to.
And if you are applying to schools in Indiana, the last week of September is College Go Week. So a lot of Indiana colleges will waive their application fee during that week. So that's a great time to apply. Also, I noticed that a lot of people mentioned free applications and applying to as many. If you are using the Common App, that would be a good place to start if you are applying to multiple universities. And I would add, apply to the universities who have the programs that you are interested in, or programs that you can start off in to explore your passions and your interests as well. A lot of applications are free depending on what college you are applying for outside of the Go Week as well. So look into those as well and apply to colleges based on where you would like to be. So don't apply to colleges in Canada if you really don't want to go to Canada or things of that nature, or colleges that you're willing to visit as well, because you want to make sure you have a good feel of the campus and the atmosphere before you attend that university.
In your opinion, I know you're kind of from varying specific job titles at your different institutions, and we have a student on the panel too, but in your opinions, is there something or maybe multiple things that really make an application stand out for a specific student that maybe we can share with our students that they could keep in mind as they apply to the different colleges and universities that they're interested in?
Well, I think one, if you're applying, and of course I'm representing Indiana's Community College, so there isn't an essay required for our institution. However, if you are applying to a free institution that does require an essay, which I think is a very good practice, because it really does intrigue you and make you think about, hey, what will I do at this institution, or why am I truly interested in this institution? Just make sure that you access some sort of free checker software just to make sure that it's grammatically intact and sound before you submit it.
A lot of colleges and universities have a holistic approach, so we're looking at every aspect at your college application, from your essay to your transcript, especially your extracurricular activities, when we're thinking about different scholarships that you might be eligible for. So I would say, depending on the college, just submit everything that you are involved in, especially your resume and your activities, because some of that might help you along the way if they're looking at everything individual, not just like your test scores. Like some colleges like us were test optional. I know Marion is blind, what do you call it? Test blind. So there's a lot of different areas that to look at. So just be mindful of that when applying to those colleges. But I would say don't leave anything out that would help your academic profile.
So I have a question. So you said don't test blind. Can you?
No, that's Marion. I'll let Ashley speak to what they have. So Marion, we are test blind, and so a lot of colleges have really re-examined the SAT and ACT requirements. So there are some schools that are test optional, which essentially says, hey, if you have taken the SAT or ACT and you feel like those scores will enhance your application, you can submit them. With a test blind institution like Marion, we are saying even if you take the SAT or ACT, we do not use your scores. So we don't use those test scores for admissions or to award academic scholarships.
So then what are you looking at to evaluate the student and whether or not they get admitted or not?
Yes, so it's still a holistic process. So we're looking at the transcript. We spend a lot of time with the transcript. We look at what type of courses a student has taken. So how have they challenged themselves, which that looks different for every student. We'll look for trends in the transcript. The GPA is definitely a really important factor, the cumulative GPA. We'll look at the activities that a student is involved in. And then we also look at demonstrated interest. And I think that's a really important thing that students don't really think about. A lot of times with demonstrated interest and how a student shows that they're interested in a school, they think, oh, I can visit the school. Not every student can afford to visit schools, which there are a lot of programs available at different universities to help with that if that is an issue. But a lot of times demonstrated interest can be, okay, did you take extra time on your essay? Did you just fly through the application, which we can tell when students go through the application really quickly. Did you spell our name right? We get a lot of students who misspell Marion, and that is one of the quickest ways where you're not getting a scholarship from us. So we want to see that students have really taken that thought and care, and that they've thought about Marion and that we are a legitimate option. So I think going back to just kind of the question about how many schools a student should apply to, I definitely think students should apply to as many schools as they are interested in, but at the same time, I don't really think there's a reason for students to apply to 50 different schools or a ton of different schools. It's kind of like craft a list of schools that you have an interest in that have your programs and then apply to those schools.
So also in the application process, do you guys do in-person interviews with the students as part of maybe the admissions process?
So for Marion, we have a 2-year program, and then we also have a 4-year program. For our 4-year program, we don't do interviews, but for our 2-year program, sometimes if we feel a student maybe a little bit lower than what we would like to see, or if there's a story that we feel like, you know what, something happened this year during high school, we just want to know more about that, we may ask for an interview then. We only do interviews, and they can be in person or virtual, with students who have been homeschooled and they have not submitted test scores. So we interview those students. Outside of that, we do not conduct interviews.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's very interesting. I know we talked a little bit about how Marion is evaluating students who apply, and that was really helpful to know. So I was wondering if we could speak to how other institutions, or your institution specifically, are also reviewing applications, kind of what that process looks like at each institution might be helpful, I think.
Absolutely. So Ivy Tech, all of our Ivy Tech campuses all over the state, whether you're here locally in central Indiana, or if you're in Evansville or South Bend, we have the exact same process. We're open access community college. So we have a knowledge assessment, so you don't have to necessarily take an SAT or ACT. We have a knowledge assessment which tests your college preparedness, and it is even optional. So if you decide that you do not want to take the knowledge assessment, you can still start taking courses, but we would bring you in one of our developmental courses to prepare you. One of the things that we stress at Ivy Tech is there is a place for everyone, that you belong here. So the application is free. It's available online. That's applicable to most of our programs. We do have some selective programs within the college, particularly our nursing program. That is an application-based program that does require for you to take a particular series of courses prior to, such as anatomy and physiology, English, mathematics. You take those before, as well as a entrance exam, which is commonly known as the TEAS test. Then you have an opportunity to apply. But by and large, that's about the only selective program that I can recall off my head just now on our campus. Everything else is pretty much open access, giving you an opportunity to apply and begin taking classes immediately. We also accept students on a rolling basis. So as you are, if you decide that you would like to start classes in the summer to get a jump start, you can start in the summer. If you want to start in August or October, every 8 weeks, we have an admissions process that will assist you getting started.
So I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
So I know that Ivy Tech has a dual enrollment program that allows high schoolers to be able to get a jump start on their college education. Can you talk a little bit more about what that is and what that looks like, and how students can perhaps enroll in that program?
Absolutely. So I just so happen to be the director of dual enrollment, so I can speak to that just a little bit. The dual enrollment program at Ivy Tech is very special in that we give students an opportunity to start taking their classes. My youngest scholar in my program started at 13. So from 13, as it was his 9th grade year, and he's now 14. But giving him that opportunity and building him up, starting him early, he is now prepared and on a trajectory to where in his junior year, he will have completed the Indiana College Core, which is that first 30 credit hour block of courses that is highly transferable to any college or university, to include the general education courses. We have a very simple process for our, I call them our junior scholars, to get started. They complete an application on our website, and because they're under 18, they'll be routed to my office. So either myself or a member of my staff will make contact. And because our scholars are younger, we connect directly to the parents oftentimes. And we set up an opportunity to talk to them to gauge their interests. Most of our students are interested in the Indiana College Core because it makes sense. It's very challenging to ask sometimes an 18-year-old, what do you want to major in? Try asking a 14 or 15-year-old what they want to major in, what they want to be. A lot of them don't quite know yet. But on the opposite end of the spectrum, some of our students do. They know that they want to be a nurse like mommy, or I want to be a teacher like daddy. And if that is the case, then we could get you a jump start on that trajectory, because we have transfer articulation agreements with several of our 4-year partners within the city. On the stage here, today, we have transfer agreements to ensure that once you're taking your courses with us at Ivy Tech, that they're highly transferable. One of the things that also makes the dual enrollment program unique at Ivy Tech Indianapolis is that you don't just apply and you're left there. we provide wraparound support for our students to ensure that they are being academically successful. So throughout the semester, if a student stops turning in assignments or stops attending class, their advisor, typically either myself or a member of my staff, receives an alert from the professor and that notifies us and lets us know what is going on if the student's missing assignments. We connect with the parent, sometimes the school counselor, as well as the student, just to provide some interventional services to see what might be going on. Because oftentimes, we can have a conversation about it. We can actually save and salvage and try to make sure to ensure that we keep the student on the trajectory for success. So dual enrollment is a phenomenal program. And this is one that is actually tuition bearing. Now we also have the dual credit that is oftentimes sponsored by the high schools. And it's where credentialed teachers teach the courses as well. But by and large, our homeschool population, my colleague here shared earlier about homeschool and having interviews, they are really taking advantage of dual enrollment because this gives them an opportunity to share and showcase that they too can complete college level courses and it prepares them for transfer to university. So thanks for asking that.
Great. Thank you for sharing that. It's very helpful to know.
I don't know if you got to share a little bit about how applications are evaluated.
Oh, sure, I would love. So it's very similar to all of the other, we take a holistic approach to our application process. So we look at everything from your GPA to your test scores, to your resume, your transcript, where you're looking at the courses that you've taken. If you've taken AP courses or dual enrollment courses, what school you've attended, we take all of that into consideration. We do recommend students not submit their test scores if they do not think that it will help their academic profile, because whatever you submit, we will look at. So we are very, very adamant of letting our students know if you don't think this is a good test score, and reaching out to their admission counselors if they are unsure, or if they have questions about if they feel like this will help the program that they might be interested in. We are big on legacy on so we take a look at that, but that doesn't go into consideration, but we like to see who's legacy when they are enrolling into our university. And what's another interesting thing that a student appreciated is we asked you about your dog and your cat, because we have a live mascot, a bulldog, so we give gifts to your dog if you're a minute, they give bandanas and things of that nature. So we take a real interest in you as a person, as well as, I would say, as me as a admission counselor, we read all of our applications so that they don't go through like an automated system. So I really love reading the essays and getting to know our students, especially if they might not have the best GPA or the test scores that might help them in the long run, explaining why they did have this bad semester, or what's going on in their life if they get a little vulnerable or open in their essays. That can be helpful, as well as everything else that we require. So yeah, holistic approach in its entirety.
Sounds like it. Well, go ahead, Angelina.
Oh, I'm gonna hold the floor with all my questions.
No, I know. Well, there's just a lot of good questions to go around. So
Okay, so I have a question for the students. So how did you decide that you were going to select the majors that you chose? So if you could kind of share a little bit about that, your process in determining your majors, that'd be good.
Me personally, in high school, I was a student who didn't really know what path I wanted to go as far as a career and just like life choices. So coming to Ivy Tech, I had a mentor and I had plenty of things just to influence my decision. I always had a passion for writing and film. So then mass communications was something that people who put into my ear as a major that I should definitely look into. And the more that I looked into, I realized journalism, communications, and just things like that was where I wanted to go.
Okay, great, thank you.
For me, my vision began really early. My vision began with my third grade teacher. My third grade teacher was very straight, wanted to see me succeed. And what she would do, she had me write on a piece of paper at least what I thought my vision was after I graduated. And she would then send that to me once I graduated, and to remind me that is your vision, go for it. And so being in communication with your teachers, your professors, and having them at least give you an idea of what you're interested in, even if you're unsure, be in communication with your professors or other students that share common interests to be able to at least have a vision of what you want to do, what you want to aspire, and where your goal is at, and aim towards that goal and fight for that goal. And because obstacles are going to present itself, and the goal is to be able to have a community to fight to overcome those obstacles.
Great, thank you for sharing that. That's helpful to hear. Process of what led you to choose your majors. And for students where you're working with a 15-year-old, with a 14-year-old, with an 18-year-old who's like, oh, I'm not sure. Is there some type of work that you guys do with them to say, well, hey, well, what are you passionate about? What do you enjoy doing, spending your free time doing? Kind of using that as a guide to figure out how those interests and passions can translate into a career path.
Absolutely. I'll be happy to talk about that. In meeting with several of my students, I oftentimes or almost always encourage them to just, take the Indiana College Core route to get their general education kind of cemented. Regardless of the institution, if they choose to go on to a four-year institution to get a bachelor's degree and beyond, that core is going to be standard. However, I also, on the same hand, encourage families and students that I work with to explore, utilize this opportunity to explore an interest that you might have that's outside of general education. So if you're interested, or if you think you may be interested in a healthcare career, take an intro to healthcare career course to expose you to those types of careers, or nursing to that same light. Because I do believe that any course that we take, any experience that we have that is an early college experience, really does contribute to our overall betterment and our holistic approach at education. I was fortunate enough to take a dual credit course as a high school student, and what that did for me was first it told me that I could take a college class. So it builds up the self-esteem of the student that may be a little uncertain of their abilities to take a class. And also I encourage them, I say, hey, this is your opportunity to explore. Now we want you to pass this class. So I don't want you to get in trouble at home. However, this is also the time for you to explore and engage your interest, because you'll never know what you're interested in if you never explore. So at the college at Ivy Tech, we encourage our students to use the Indiana Career Explorer just as an opportunity to explore, to connect some of their behaviors and interests to potential careers. And when we get within the ballpark of that, that will allow us to kind of pinpoint to say, okay, well, we're at least going down this track, perhaps research and explore this a little bit further, these particular things a little bit further. I'm very leery about pushing a student one way or the other, because our interests change. Even with the 13-year-old that I've worked with, he wanted to be something completely different during our first conversation. And he said, you know what, now I want to do something completely different. And that's completely okay, because by the time he's 17 and 18, guess what? He's going to want to do something completely different. But allowing them that time to grow intellectually, to grow socially, and find out who they are when they're that young. Because in college, and I think my colleagues and my fellow students will agree, is that we utilize that time in college to develop our personal interests. We joined clubs, we interacted with folks from other ethnicities, and that allowed us to have a greater worldview perspective and be greater citizens within the world. And so with the students under my tutelage, that's what I encourage. And a lot of them take me up on it. And they come back at the end of the semester and say, you know what, Mr. Alonso, you were right. I said, I know I was right.
I have a question. So that dual program is for high school students, correct? And then, so what do you look for when you are looking at applicants that are applying for that program?
Okay, that's a wonderful question, and thanks for asking. If your student is registered in a Indiana charter school, Indiana public school, and they're at least at junior status, so they're at least in 11th grade, and they have a 2.5 grade point average in high school or better, we're able to accept that student and waive the knowledge assessment test for them. Because we believe that if they're at least able to be at the 2.5 level and be working on an Indiana College Core diploma, then they can successfully pass our English composition course. If a student does not have that 2.5 grade point average, we do not let that serve as a deterrent, because we believe that in community college that every student can learn. So we just ask that they take the knowledge assessment to earn a passing score. In the event that a student doesn't earn that passing score of 70 for reading and writing, it's okay. Because we believe that you can still work towards it. There's study paths that help you enhance and work on your skills as you are progressing along that study path so that you can make that score. And if you interact with my office, just because you're not registering that semester, we don't lose you. There is follow-up, there's service before the sale. We want to make sure that you're a good fit and you're a good fit and we help you out along the way. Another thing that we do in our office is that we would love for all of our students to continue matriculating at Ivy Tech beyond that Indiana College core. However, all of our students have varied interests. We don't know where they want to go. One of my colleagues shared that apply to schools that have your major and your interest. So if you don't have our major and interest, we want to be a part of your success plan, which means that I need to connect with my colleagues that do offer your major and your interest so that we have what I call a warm handoff. Okay?
Speaking of that warm handoff, we have lots of partnerships. I'm sure a lot of four-year universities and colleges within Indiana have partnerships with Ivy Tech, different articulations where you can finish your associate's degree and come in as a junior at our university with different programs. So definitely utilize Ivy Tech if you feel like that is a good start for you or your students as well.
Another question about the dual program. So, this is kind of specific, but do you have students that, so I'm thinking about a high school student and if they're involved in extracurriculars and sports, all that stuff, like how do they fit in during this college thing?
Absolutely. Thank you for that question. What a great question. Wow. Yeah, so because a lot of my students, I have cheerleaders, which I really have to literally cheerleading more than band. And because our students are now starting to get back out there, which is, I think, great for their social interaction, social growth. Because we have, at Ivy Tech, we have 2 8-week sessions within the semester. So we have an August to October session, which is 8 weeks, and then we have an October to December session. So when we start thinking about the season, as I'm meeting with families and parents, I look at specifically, okay, so what does we have in practice? Okay, this is what we have. So we work around that. One of the joys of the community college is that we want to be where you are. So we also have what we call the weekend Indiana College core. So I've had a particular student to literally take classes on Fridays. That these are dedicated students now. Because you tell a teenager that they're going to take classes on Saturday morning, they say, what? However, I think that there is value in allowing a student to say, hey, this is a responsibility, this is something that you want to do. Now, it doesn't interfere with the clubs and organizations that you're a part of, but this is a commitment that you're making to yourself very early on. So we have classes that start as late as 7:30 in the evening. We offer them in multiple modalities, of course, as I'm sure most people are right now. We have the virtual courses that allow you to tune into a Zoom room for instruction, which we call it Ivy Online, that where it's completely asynchronous. For high school students in particular, based on my experience, I don't always recommend the completely asynchronous courses because I believe that there is value in the traditional instruction modality. But for non-traditional learners or folks that are a little bit more self-motivated, the Ivy Online is a good option. And of course, here in Central Indiana, we have our main campus, which is just 2 blocks down. We could have walked here. We have our main campus. We also have a new campus made at Plainfield, which is out in Plainfield. And we, of course, we have our Lawrence campus near the Fort. So we are all over the city, and there are other campuses as well up in Hamilton County that's growing. So we want to be where you are. We have several modalities to accommodate any student, and most of my students are very busy, particularly my cheerleaders.
So if a student enrolls in that program, what's the name of the diploma that they get, or the Indiana?
Okay, yeah, so most of my students are getting what we actually call it a certificate, because it is not necessarily a degree. So when these students apply to their university, they're still able to apply as a first-time freshman because they're not degreed. And then oftentimes they have just at the 30 credit hour mark, and most institutions allow them to do that. But we do have some ambitious students that if they start early enough, there are some students that are really working towards receiving an Associate of Arts in Liberal Arts. That is that's 20 classes, 60 credit hours, because they have the desire to transfer their entire associate degree to their next university. And there are a few students that have been successful at that, but more times than not, my students are doing the Indiana College Core, unless they know exactly what they want to do. And we do have some of those to where they actually decide on a major, and we assist them in selecting courses for that particular major. Great question.
I know we've talked a little bit about kind of what the institutions are looking for in an application, but I was wondering if any of you could speak a little bit to helping our students determine what kind of post-secondary opportunity is best for them, and helping them kind of narrow the field a little bit.
So the thing that I always encourage students to do, the first thing is just to look at size. So compare your high school experience. How big are your class sizes? Do you like going to a big school? Do you feel like you want a smaller school? And then even if you feel a student feels like they know what size school they want to attend, I still encourage them to visit schools of varying sizes. Just because a student may go on a college visit and realize, you know what, I definitely want to be at a small or a large school. However, this school has this program and that's going to be really important to me. But there are a lot of different quizzes. So, you know, the College Board has one that I'll refer students to where you can go online and it just asks you questions about, hey, what types of things do you feel like you want in a college experience? And there are a lot of those different quizzes out there. Our office offers some of those as well, but I always say just start big. So figure out like the size, and then you can go down and look at, okay, I know I want to be at size, this type of school, or maybe location, what type of programs are offered. So just looking at some of those large characteristics and then going and just looking at your list and creating it from there.
One of the biggest recommendations I have for looking post-secondary is during your campus visit, your campus tour, after it, don't just leave. Go out and explore yourself. Go out and talk to the professors. Go out, if you know what department and what area you want to go in, go find those professors and personally talk to them, so you can have a better idea to be able to compare other universities to those universities that you have in mind. And that gives you a good idea of how that department is and where your visions are in those universities.
I would say, I will piggyback off of, everyone said it this, but visit. Like, no, a lot of our students visit our campus and they never thought that they would like to attend a private small institution, but then they realize they can get up 5 minutes before class and still make it and not take a shuttle and things of that nature. Another thing I would like to add that I think is very important, and my colleague from Ivy Tech mentioned this, a lot of students don't know what they want to do at 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, or 18 years old. They change their majors multiple times. So look at college and universities, don't feel pressured, that offer an opportunity for you to come be admitted to the university and have a general studies or exploratory studies program that allows you to explore before choosing your major. At Butler, you are admitted directly into the program, but we do have an exploratory studies major where you can stay in for 2 years and you can get advising, attend academic fairs, you can get a chance to explore different programs, take classes, and do a quiz or a survey or a questionnaire just to determine. So don't feel pressured just because your mom and dad did health science and your sister, that's all you know, that you have to do health sciences. Look for universities that offer you the opportunity to explore and just enjoy being on your own as a 17, 18-year-old in a university, being involved in clubs and exploring your opportunities there as well.
That's all very helpful information. I think, I know it can sometimes feel hard to narrow it down. So there's a lot of great choices out, both in our state and outside of our state. So I think that's really helpful. Some of you have touched on this a little bit kind of tangentially, But we have a lot of, we have a lot of traditional college students, but we also have a lot of non-traditional people who are, maybe finishing up an associate's or maybe have an associate's and are going back to school years later. Are there additional supports or programs, either for freshmen on your campus, which I know is part that we've touched on a little bit, that there are some of those, but not just for freshmen, but also for some of our non-traditional students?
Yeah, definitely. So we have a transfer assistant director of transfer students. So those are for students who have 12 credit hours or more of college, or if they just we have for adult learners, we have opportunities for them and support for them if they're getting back into applying for college or just want to take non-degree classes to see if they even want to do that. So we have counselors that will help them and guide them through that way. We even have clubs and organizations on campus and commuter organizations if they're commuting from in Indianapolis or the Indianapolis, Indiana area for opportunities for them as well. So yeah, we definitely have support for those students and we welcome them. Our transfer students even receive merit scholarships as well. It's not the same amount as your freshman, but we still try to provide you with some assistance and scholarships if you're transferring from another university or college.
And at Ivy Tech, we also have several different wraparound supports that are available for our students with, for varying demographics. And there are just a few that I'd like to highlight. One of which is very popular, and most folks know about it, is TRIO Student Support Services. There is a criterion to become a TRIO student, but the wraparound support almost mirrors what I've shared with you about the dual enrollment program and ensuring that you have a dedicated advisor that you're able to build that relationship with. My colleagues shared about going to different institutions and just seeing, hey, what is here for me? One of the things that I really like about TRIO, and I was not a TRIO student, however, after finding out about all the great services, I wish I was one, was that the cohorted community that you're able to build really does create that accountability that you need. College becomes hard, life becomes hard, and oftentimes it's very easy to say, okay, this was good, but I think I'm gonna stop going a couple of semesters. When we stop going, that's when life happens. And as life happens, oh, well, I never did go back to school. And so I think the wraparound support services at TRIO Student Support Services and like programs offered at Ivy Tech, such as our Ignite Foster Youth program, which is for our students of foster youth. They have a dedicated advisor that actually assists them the exact same way, but it's for that particular targeted population. For students that are freshmen that are four-year college bound, interested, they know that they want a bachelor's degree, but they know that they also want to benefit from getting their Indiana College Core completed. We have the Associate Accelerated Program, also known as ASAP. And ASAP allows our students to earn their associate degrees in 11 months. Wow, right? So earning that associate degree in 11 months is not an easy feat by any measure, but these students must actually have a 2.75 grade point average, entertain an interview for the program, and they must commit to a Monday through Thursday schedule from 8 a.m. until 5 p.m. With a 2-hour lunch break in between. The average college student takes between 12 and 15 credit hours per semester as a traditional freshman. Our students take 24, 28 credit hours per semester, but they do this with total wraparound support. So most students have to go to the financial aid office, go to this office, go to that office. In the Associate Accelerated Program, you have one person. In the comfort of having one person for admissions, one person for financial aid, you have one person that you go to remove the barriers of you walking from office to office to office, getting frustrated sometimes. There's one person. So Ivy Tech has specific programs that ensure your success if you're ready to be dedicated to our programs. And we have light programs for every demographic. Those were just some that were top of the brain.
We, like, I my colleagues, we have a lot of those programs at Marion. One of the things that I would really encourage non-traditional students to think about is their schedule. So at Marion, a lot of times when students apply, they will not really pay attention to the application and they'll apply for our campus-based programs. We do have some online programs, and so sometimes we have students who will apply and we'll admit them, and we're talking about orientation and signing up for classes, and they'll come in and they're like, hey, I work during this time, I can't do this. And we're like, you applied for their own program. So think about that schedule, and that's one of the things where if you don't want to make that commitment and complete an application, just call the admissions office at the university and say, hey, this is what my schedule looks like. Is it possible for me to do this program? And then one resource that I want to highlight that Marion offers that I really, really enjoy, we have a writing center, and the writing center is open to the community. So it's not just for Marion students. And what the writing center does is they work with anyone who comes in and helps them write. So whether that is, hey, I have this essay due, I don't know where to start, or I worked on this essay or this resume or cover letter and I want someone to review it, anyone can reach out to the Writing Center and set up a virtual or an online appointment. And then we also have a speaking center as well, which helps people with presentations.
One of the things that I would like to highlight at Ivy Tech, and this is kind of, my colleague here just kind of triggered this thought. You were speaking about our non-traditional population and how oftentimes we're coming back saying, I have a degree in this, or I don't have a degree, but I'm interested in really positioning myself within the workforce so that I can have a better paying position. One of the hidden gems, one of the things that we're actually growing out at Ivy Tech is our CCEC, as we call it abbreviated, but it is Career Coaching and Employer Connections. One of the values of your degree is actually tying that degree specifically with a field or with an employer. And what this, our CCEC does is it allows you to have that early engagement starting with 0 to 15 credit hours to where you're starting to engage with employers. So that by the time you complete that certificate or that degree credential, you've had interactions with the employers, you have a LinkedIn profile, you have your resume, you've had time to tailor and prepare yourself for the interview to ensure that you land the job that will work for you. And this is available to all of our students, this professional career coaching. We have a dedicated staff that works in industry to build these partnerships out. So there are a myriad of partnerships, and several of them are available on our website to let you know the employers that we work with. We also encourage, if there are some of our students that would need to benefit or would like to benefit from employer tuition assistance and tuition reimbursement, a lot of employers partner with us and say, we want your students, this is what we're going to offer them if they choose to continue getting their degree. And it allows you to get those early internship opportunities to get that valuable experience. So that's one of the things that I thought of as we were talking about a non-traditional student population.
I would like to speak as a non-traditional student myself. So I was a part of the ASAP program that Alonzo was talking about. And me personally, it helped my transition into a four-year college. So I was in ASAP from 2019 to 2020, which is the COVID year. And I decided to transfer to Kentucky State that semester also. So going into Kentucky State, I was used to taking 5 classes every 8 weeks. But then going to Kentucky State, I had 4 classes all semester. So to build my time management skills to the point where it was like, okay, I can get this knocked out right now. And I was knocking out assignments like 2 weeks ahead, just because I was so used to moving at a faster pace. So I think it definitely helps having programs like that. And yeah.
Thank you. Oh, that's very
So
helpful.
I have a question. So we talked a lot about academics and career. Let's talk a little bit about the social life. Can you talk a little about what that looks like on your campuses, the sororities? I don't know if you guys have seen the movie School Days. Are you guys familiar with that? Okay, yeah. So with the pledging and things like that, can you talk a little bit about what the social life looks like on your campus for your students?
Definitely. So we have over 130 plus organizations that our students are involved in. I know Butler is very well known for basketball, Hinkle Fieldhouse and Blue Forest. So We have that like big school feel, even though we are a smaller institution. So Hinkle Fieldhouse could be filled with 10,000 students and fans and things of that nature. So lots of opportunities there. We do have 14 sororities and fraternities on our campus that have like homes and things of that nature. And then we also have partnerships. We're part of the citywide fraternity and sororities for the National Panhellenic Council here within, I believe, University of Indiana, IUPUI. I'm not sure of Marion's, but DePaul. DePaul's a part of that, so students could play citywide. Sigma Gamma Rho was founded on our campus. We have intramural and club sports for students who are not playing our Division I sports. We have a farm students can participate on, so lots of different opportunities. Center for Faith and Vocation. The hub was created in 2020 specifically for our Black students and community engagement and staff and faculty and things of that nature. So it's something for everyone. We have Latinx organizations. I mean, it's a plethora, and I believe, and hopefully it's like that at multiple universities, a lot of opportunities, so no one is feeling left out. But we like to have a lot of fun at Butler. Like students like that. 97% of our students are either involved in a club or leading a club. So you're not going to be bored or lacking anything when it comes to the social aspect. And like our student government takes students off campus, like they rent buses, they go to Sky Zone. We have a shuttle that takes students downtown or to Broad Ripple or to Target if they need to shop, or Broad Ripple area if they don't have cars on campus. So we try to have that opportunity as well.
Great, thank you. And you mentioned something interesting by participating in some of these organizations. It allows you an opportunity to develop your leadership skills.
Yeah, it does a lot of leadership skills. And I want to mention that we have study abroad as well. Over 40% of our students study abroad. No matter what you're majoring in, you can do it for 2 weeks, a semester, a year. A lot of students are interested in that, as well as learning semester as a way, and they get to know Butler network outside of Indiana, what it looks like to work at different like the West Coast or the East Coast or things of that nature. So yeah, it does develop their leadership skills, definitely.
Thank you for sharing that.
You're welcome.
And piggybacking off of that, at Marion, we joke and we say, if you raise your hand at the wrong time, you're the president of a club. It is so easy to get involved. I think, honestly, one of the things that we see is our students are too involved. So as faculty and staff, we have to have a lot of conversations with students about, hey, you are signed up for so many things, like you're going to get burnt out. And then even kind of behind the scenes, we're like, you know what, this person, we should not ask them to be on this panel because they're involved in so many different things. But there are clubs, we offer athletics, we're NAIA, so we offer scholarships for those. I know on campus tonight, something one of our students was telling me that they're really excited about is we have bingo, which I'm definitely going to go to that next time, just hearing some of the prizes. But with Marion and our location, the majority of our students are coming from Marion County and the donut counties. So something that we have to do as an institution is we have to provide a lot of opportunities for students to get involved, because we don't want our students to feel like they have to go home on the weekends. We don't want to be a suitcase campus where students are on campus Monday through Friday, and then on the weekend, they're going home. So each Sunday we send out 2 emails. One is for campus ministry. We are a Catholic institution and open and welcoming to students of all faiths. So we'll tell students, hey, this is what's going on within campus ministry every day. And then we send out a second email from student activities that says, hey, this is what's going on, not only on campus, but also in the community surrounding campus. We think it's really important that our students are involved in Indianapolis. So we don't want to have just a bubble where students are only on campus. We want to make sure that they're doing things downtown and Broad Ripple and really exploring the city.
I'm gonna yield to someone that actually works in the student life office. I just wanted to highlight one of the programs that I'm affiliated with, and we know by and large, just across the spectrum, that our men are attending college at a significantly reduced rate than our ladies. So ladies, you ladies are leading the charge when it comes to college attendance. But one of the things that we're trying to do specifically at Ivy Tech Indianapolis is to create a sense of brotherhood amongst all men. So we have just launched a chapter of the Student African American Brotherhood, which we are coining Brother to Brother at Ivy Tech Indianapolis. And the premise is to create a sense of brotherhood and bond and accountability amongst men, and also to give us an opportunity to just have boy talk, just to sit around and talk about things and to study. So one of the things that we do on a weekly basis, except this week because it's spring break, is we get together once a week and actually study. Some of the advisors in Brother to Brother are actually professors, they're faculty members. And so some of their students that know about the organization, we're really getting the word out and the steam going. They'll come and literally just say, well, I'm gonna come to this, after class and just see what it's about. And you find out that it's a bond of brotherhood that you want to be a part of. So as part of Brother to Brother, there is an adjoining organization that has been called I Move. And with the I Move program, we are strategically partnering with professionals in industry. So understand how we continue to circle back to, we're getting you some mentorship, we're getting you prepared and getting you connected with organizations, because these may be your former supervisors, these may be internship opportunities, and they're pouring into you, so they have a vested interest in your success. So Brother to Brother and I Move are two initiatives that are strategically, specifically targeted towards male and African-American males and men of color to increase their retention within our programs and increase completion rates. So I'll pass it to someone in student life to talk about some other things.
Well, in student life, our main goal is to get students involved. We always have events going on. We always have STEAM clubs getting involved. We have CAB, we have BSC, we have these events and these clubs that are meant for students to go out, so they don't just come to campus. So they don't just come to campus and then leave. We want them to get involved. We want them to get connected with each other, to build this social connection that will last a lifetime, that will last out of college, and to build, as mentioned, leadership, to build these communication skills that will help them in their career. So that is our goal. Our goal is to go out, get them united with one another, and get them involved on campus. And that's what we do, and that's why we serve the community that I love to serve.
That's right. Thank you guys for sharing that. That's really good to hear.
Yeah, that was a great question, Angelina. That made me think of, we've talked a little bit about non-traditional students as well as our traditional students. I think what comes up a lot for all students, but especially for our non-traditional students, is that work-life balance. And I didn't know if that was something that you could speak to a little bit, of how to support those students, or like the best maybe additional programming opportunities, some of which I think you've touched on, but I would just love to expand on that a little bit.
Octavia's quickly guarding right here.
Yes, because as a student at Ivy Tech and also at my other school, I worked 25 hours a week. I currently work 25 hours a week along with going to school. And it's challenging, but at the same time, I feel like it's something that is very realistic in life. Is you have things that you have to do. And so working and going to school is one thing that I have to do in order to pay some of the bills that I have. And it's a challenge, but at the same time, I enjoy it because it lets me know that I can manage these things, so that when I don't have to do them, it's still something like that I have in the back of my mind in order to do.
And as an advisor, I've worked in all of the capacities, and I think my colleagues might agree. Even in admissions, we take on some realms with advising. And as we're looking at what our students have going on individually, we try to tailor and give a realistic profile of what their program might look like. When someone says associate degree, oftentimes they're instantly thinking 2 years. However, the reality of that is it's not always 2 years unless you're taking 15 credit hours every semester. So that 2-year degree turns into a 3.5-year degree or a 3-year degree. So I realistically, as an advisor, share with my student, this is what we're looking like if we take courses every semester uninterrupted, and you're learning along the way, just to remove well, I have to complete this in 2 years, from just being realistic about those expectations and outcomes is one of the things that helps. Because when we're talking about if you're doing a 2-year degree, but also I share with students that the degree is going to be required for some of our students, not all of our students. A lot of our technical certificates Literally, folks earn high wages through the next level programs of study that get our students employed. And so I just opened my students' eyes to the options that are available to them to say, these are some of the options. Let me help you get on the road to the one that works best for you. As our students are working, and we, as all of us can attest to working, and some of us working as graduate students, it gets hard. It gets hard. So creating that time within your schedule is just woosah time, right? So I ask my students, I'm gonna ask you, what's your me time? I ask my students, what is that time that you select and carve out just for yourself? Not to read, not to respond to discussion boards, not to write a paper, but that time just for yourself to self-care, right? So what do you do for self-care? And I really do, and particularly as I've worked with some of my parents, and it is typically my students that are also parents, they say, I don't have self-care until my kids go to sleep. I said, well, if that is your self-care, let that be your time, and let's respect that time because it's important, because you need that. So I'm an advocate for creating a good work-life balance, but also as we're thinking about that, just those check-in, those checkpoints with my students to make sure that they're okay.
And communication is really key. I think a lot of times the students who are successful, they approach academics like a job. And what I mean by that is if you have a job and you're sick or something happens, you're not just going to not show up. You're going to communicate with your supervisor, hey, this happened, I'm not going to be there. So I always encourage students to do the same thing with their faculty members, and faculty understand that students have lives outside the classroom. So if something comes up and you're communicating, a lot of times your faculty, they're going to give you some grace, or they're going to say, hey, you know what, turn this in later, or yes, give me a doctor's note and we'll work. But if you just skip and you don't say anything and then you expect that grace to be given, it's going to be a little bit more difficult. So I always say just talk with your faculty members if something comes up, or if there's an issue, or maybe you didn't perform as well as you wanted to on a test, talk with your faculty member. People respect when you're trying and when they know what's going on. So just make sure you're keeping those lines of communication open.
That's a great point. Yeah.
Yes, that is a great point. And one of the benefits of attending a smaller private university is that you get to know your professors on a one-on-one basis and build those relationships. So it should be easier. Hopefully it's easier for you to go to them and be honest with them and let them know, hey, I'm having, or send them a quick email, and they will be more than understanding when it comes to that. At Butler, we do have lots of opportunities for students to be involved in our Be Well model. So it's a holistic approach, making sure students have access to therapy, yoga. We have prayer rooms on campus, advisors that they can go and speak with, different resource times where they can go if they need assistance. We're working on events. They're working on childcare as well, because we have a lot of graduate programs as well, and a lot of night options. We have a lot of online options for students, so some of our non-traditional students do not have to come to campus as well. But definitely, I would just say, definitely communicating with your professors and approaching it, being honest instead of just not showing up or not turning anything in. Especially, we do have, being that we are in Indianapolis and we are in the middle of the city, we do have a lot of non-traditional students that are coming to campus, so they are very understanding with that as well.
And speaking, going back to the point of non-traditional, I myself am also a non-traditionalist, and one of the biggest things I found difficult is staying self-motivated. And as mentioned, is communication is key. Don't keep it to yourself. Reach out, find the support system, find that same values of individuals that also are more than likely struggling with the same struggles of self-motivation. You're not the only one. Go out there, communicate that with each other, and you will find commonalities with one another. Because once you come to me, I'll keep that in mind. I'll go to you and I will find you and make sure that you're doing great and that you're striving for your goals. But communicate that, don't keep it to yourself, because self-motivation is very difficult, and you can always use the support.
Very good points. Well, we've got like a couple minutes left. I don't know if anyone has a last minute question that they want to ask, or if we should head to wrapping up. I know Angelina's been monitoring the chat. Nope, no questions here. Okay, awesome. Well, I realize I'm not on the video screen, so let me come over here, wave to our recording. I just want to thank everyone for joining us this evening. This has been so helpful and like a great conversation, a great opportunity for us to learn more. I'm excited for some of our students to be watching this virtually down the line to, when they're getting ready to explore their post-secondary opportunities. I think we're going to direct a lot of people to this. And for anyone watching this later, if you would like to be connected to any of the institutions represented today, please let your Family Learning Navigator know. We would be happy to connect you to make sure that you have that warm handoff like we talked about. We're happy to be a part of that as well. And please feel free to check out the Children's Museum's website for our April offerings, our April workshop offerings. And as a reminder, it's a little bit last minute, but Dinosphere opens on Saturday. So we want to welcome everyone back to that exhibit as well. And just thank you again for joining us this evening. We've had a great conversation and we hope to see everyone next month.